Tonight. My name is Brian Wright. I'm the principal of Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative, leading a team of planners and engineers and artists and thinkers and dreamers and realists as well in the process this week that is Charrette. And so you all are participating in it. You have extra time tonight. So I've got a presentation I'm going to run through. And at the end, we're going to do mapping exercise here. We're going to do a Q&A after that. And the process is generally I stand here until the last question is asked. So I don't want anybody to be like they get their 3 cents. But what you'll see at the end, I'll kind of go through the schedule for the week as well. And just understand that this isn't your only opportunity, unless you choose to make it your only opportunity to give input. So I've never done this before. Actually had sort of like some ground rules. What I've noticed, we work all over the country, and this is probably started the firm 20 years ago, and this is probably our 65th charrette around the country. And I've noticed over the past couple of years that the discussion has heated up a lot of times, right? I had never had anybody actually interrupt me in the middle of a presentation, shout something at me until just a few months ago. So much so that the city that we're working in, their attendance. Seen other people do it before, but so you know, and you do a lot of work in the South. So I made this slide called How to Charrette. So first, be creative. Right? We're all here to be creative. Next thing is share your ideas, thoughts, or fears, and concerns. So anytime anybody's talking about it, any kind of something new, right? So the opportunity to share your concerns as well. One person talking at a time, especially with you've got this great facility. But there's a bit of an echo, so we want to make sure everybody can hear each other. This is one that my wife and I were doing some premarital counseling, and I remember the guy said, "See first to understand, then to be understood." So we got any newlyweds in the room? That was some good advice, and I thought it would be appropriate. That I said it. Then acknowledge that there's different perspectives. So even when you disagree, it's totally fine to disagree. So interesting. The reason why we're doing this process is a lot of times people don't realize that not everyone agrees with it. All of our friends agree. All the people on so the next thing is have fun. Hopefully, it's a fun process. It's not every day that you do anything. Yeah, what do you want? What are your thoughts? What do you want to see? The sign shows up and says, reads only, or then once you maybe become aware that something's happening, then you can go to city council here, commissioners, stand up in a few minutes, and state your name and address, and stand up there and kind of all just the public speaking, and you try to come across and go, wow, we're here for a week. Maybe having that same sort of feeling inside. Who's this guy standing up here talking to us? By the end of it, you'll know me. You'll all feel comfortable saying, however you whatever you feel. So that's going to be important. Take advantage of this opportunity people who are interrupting it. The thing they wanted to interrupt and say was, we don't want anything, we don't want anything. But nothing else. Right? But again, assuming that something happened. One of the interesting is that if you go to a city council or planning commission here, they'll actually want you to do this, want you to do that, you know, like vote against. The reason they do that is to say, well, I may not, a vote may not come out the way I was hoping. There may be more people in favor of this project. But at least if it happens, I've now given my input. It's going to be a little bit better. So anyway, so this refine these and tell me how to make it back chaos. But my first time. So yeah, so that's me and the team. We've got an amazing team. That you'll see throughout the week. There's actually some more that are coming in tonight. And we set up our studio. There probably more of us here tonight. And so when we go through, when we look at a site, sort of the proximity becomes important, and you all know this better than I ever will. That said, part of the reason why we have people come and participate, I would ask the public on the first line, and not 65th Charrette for 20 years, and I have we have thoughts, but we're not from here. One of the most exciting Charrettes that I've done in my career. I went to Auburn, and so being back in the area, that, so this is really exciting to me. So I know a little bit about the area, more so than I do a lot of things. But we've kind of looked at it with fresh eyes and start to see proximity to this and that and whatever, and it's kind of an interesting spot. Now, this is the boundary that you've seen, and since the billboard ultimately what's happened is this is the boundary today. So instead of 750 acres, that's the contract is for. And so all the same principles and all that apply. So look, some of the facts are here. We're in unincorporated Lee County, but we are in the city's planning jurisdiction. And what that is there's a 1.5 mile boundary where any development has to keep the city's subdivision regulations as their standards. And you compare that with the county standards as well. And so it's a complicated process. And we've met with those so far. Actually had them all at the meeting together. It's really important. So here's how and so, so that's what I was saying about subdivision regulation. So the looking at what's called a conservation subdivision. So that's one of the things that the street has to do, where you can essentially, instead of just needing lots all over the place, you can group them together. And you have to have 50% of the land left in conservation. And so when you're in a rural context like this, people all that like to do the strategy, and they're obviously that the city have that available. So we're kind of going through, and within that conservation subdivision, What it says is there's this sort of this watershed that is very important to the region. Watershed. You can see here, not in a watershed, not in a watershed. So what it says is there's no minimum lot size outside the watershed. However, the density allowed by the underlying zoning district specified in these regulations limits site density. So what that means is, a lot of times people are like, oh well, lots should be district. What it's saying is, ultimately, figure out the number of units you can do based on what that sort of standard lot size would be. So what it turns out is in the subdivision regulations, outside the city limits and outside the optimal boundary, the minimum lot area is 1 acre. So then you do the math, and so what we're going to do you basically you can do smaller lots and more lots. So it's the same amount of people, the same amount of water. It's just relative to the I don't know, you guys think about it. When you drive through the road, let's say you pass the 5 acre lot, and the house sitting there, and there's a pasture, but it's really a giant lawn, and there are not trees really well. So ultimately, rural anymore, and that's a big problem. So what we try to do, we're looking at conservation is 2 things. One is to make sure that character of the rural is actually captured and maintained, but also nature. A lot of cities have this conservation celebration. So here's some images of the site. Mostly wooded, but there's some beautiful some hydrology there. A lot of times, a lot of times, a developer would see this as an inconvenience. For us, we see it as an opportunity and something to help organize the development strategy. So the need for these things, and even if a developer will say this is a blue line street, you require a lot of times developers will just back off us to it. And so basically, in the backyard, for us, anyway, better. So some of the project goals we're looking at are agriculture. We'll talk about agrihoods in a minute. That's the idea. Preservation, so having neighborhood amenities, family friendly, working with the land, outdoor recreation, walkable, maybe a little mixed use. And this is weird. The problem with that is so the county doesn't really regulate commercial development so much as have regulations for the residential stuff, or the commercial but for us, it's more like when you guys have been to a word town, tree preservation, it's hard when the site is so heavy with, because it's like looking for me finding that specimen trees and everything. Like normally, you're working more growth on the area far more the pasture. You say there's better. So it's a little bit harder, but we support go out there and do a proper tree survey, find specimen trees, and then put the work on those, and then do well for the big tree groupings. Wildlife habitat, speaking of wildlife, this is one of those things that come across and start incorporating into our projects, and it's really lost really much. Here, talking about house here. This is a turtle crossing. But it just takes some work. So that we can like open space preservation and building with communities. This is one where these are actually images from the new developments. Just like that where we can and it's we're relentless in preserving the trees. And so these houses, this is a tree that was there when they built this building. And so I just feel like when you've got these trees, just make it just anchors what you're doing. But the tree houses can be amazing. And also, of course, adding new trees, free trees, and like that as well. Trails and parks. I love this park here, but having trails, having it be accessible. Although it's raining on, isn't it even better? So why? Something that again is all over the board. You can take it from just to community. So this is all sustainable stormwater here. There's a bioswale. There's a little here coming down. This used to be all paved. This is a asphalt alley, edge to edge, and they went in and rain chains and rain barrels and rain gardens. All of these things ended up, you can actually buy dark skies. Light. So neighborhood amenities, so natural playgrounds, like always just or in the woods. But I love this too, just working with the topography of the land, making that the slide. New gathering spaces, so places for people to get together. About developing a lot of activities, but gardens and public art, um, beautiful gardens. These are actually full-size hay bales. And looking at the farmland, right? We're talking about agriculture and incorporating that. But the way that we think about it is, so we have agriculture here. We don't want to just be and we actually are thinking about having tours, seeing kids out. When you're out here in the rural areas, you do incorporate that culture, once you have a farm that's intentional, part of the community. So, it's like with the co-op, it's like I can see like that. And then I talked about some of those little bit of commercial, so how the store, but so and then this is something that we try to incorporate in the idea of having pre-range children. Some places you say that, and but again, by thinking about it in advance, you can really all of these things that can be safe. And the other thing that's nice about it is these gathering spaces, open spaces, conservation, and agricultural, free range, lifestyle, and all that, really be for all and permeable. So that if you happen to be a neighbor, hey, and so that's the thing about it. A lot of times when you have a interesting, so what is an agrihoods? I keep alluding to. So conservation subdivisions lend themselves to agrihoods. So this is a kind of a neat diagram, kind of the old way. This is a regional explanation of this, but this is looking at kind of conventional subdivision where we have large lots and all that. So they ate up, in this case, 80% of the land in their county, with 30,000 homes. Blue is the homes, green is what's left. And then they took different way, this new way, 16% of the land accommodated 38,000 homes, right? And so in this case, they clustered and development. And so it's hard to sort of think about that as sort of visualizing it in that way. This is an example here of conventional subdivision. These are the same number of lots, and here is that sort of lot. And here you've got the open space and trails and woodlands, all of that stuff. So you just consolidated. And then also interestingly, from the edge, you actually don't sense that there's a subdivision. So here the houses come right up to the street, next to it. Here they're set way back. And then the adjacent property. So you have some buffering, you have some like keeping that sense of the world. I want to and experience it. You drive past it. So an agrihood is short for, and so really a planned community. They're planned around agriculture. A lot of people use this term these days. See that's what an agriculture. But for us, we think about it really. Oh, you'll also see some big subdivision. Still, just that they're about the same. Never mind. So some of the benefits they promote sustainability, they foster some community. Together over time, so you support the local agricultural community, enhance the health and well-being of people. That's the topic health and giving the diets and food and all that. And so, using natural diets, as part of the agrihood. The property values can go up. You end up having quality of life. Those who want it, right? Who want to be alone. Got there. Whatever that's small. So, but people like that. And then having sort of this thoughtful context. We think acronyms all over the country popping up, better than others. And here's kind of interesting. So here's farm, here's a road. We're talking about doing necessarily, but where there's houses right here, looking over on the farm. One of the best known are country therapy. Therapy, it's like 1,000 acres, but they've done a good job of incorporating it. And so as you can see, they've got a whole bunch of different sizes of homes and larger lots, and they've done a great job preserving landscape as well, walkable streets. They've got particularly barn inspired. They've got a little general store in one of their hamlet centers. Movement so people have a spontaneous outdoor dining. It's just a home on a couple of acres. Then they've got an inn there. Still a farmhouse and things. Have local artists who make their signage, meeting street lights, and pharmacy. Local artists. People they have gather as well. And then they have a whole equestrian thing. There's a beautiful barn and attics out here. And so that's kind of those are inspirations, right? Those are things that we think about, those are things that are you to spark your imagination to you know, like all of those things. And so, you know, as we go through the process, we want to so results here. Through that. So even the maps that they'll go through it's not all the prep. So what we're going to do is you guys are going to gather around these maps at your table. These red dots for negative attributes having thoughts about that intersection. Blue dots for opportunities, being positive, see it, or you know, an opportunity, you say like, oh, I live right here, I would love it. Part of that. And then you've got the markers there as well. So whenever you put it up, we actually go through every one of them. Take all the dots, so you know, take all of those, you look at it, and start to see like, and then if you are thinking about these kind of connections or whatever, all along, so it's basically plan how some of you go, oh, I haven't touched a fair market since I was 5 years old. And so it's take a second, so you can just start talking about it. But ultimately what you do, after you go through that, you go on the notes, see and there are a few questions or telling ideas, but I'm good with so here we are at the opening presentation begins a workshop, and then tomorrow our studio or the studio will begin at 9 to 3. Now that open studio is where we set up our office. I think our office is the work and effectively is yeah. So we've got also these topical meetings. We have 3 meetings tomorrow, 1 at 9, 10. So we'll have one of the meetings. We have a meeting for the agriculture meeting. Here, and then we have 2 and 3 housing and community character. And so we're into architecture, it's quite a variety of some laws. So we'll be talking about that. 3 team members meeting with everybody. Participated in the adult student. And then we Saturday, Sunday, Monday open studio, and then on Wednesday, so we close the studio on Monday, so we can prepare And then on Wednesday, we're gonna have the closing presentation where I actually show you the plan and all those theories and all that. For anybody who is anybody who is in disbelief that we can possibly do that, then you can just skip everything else. People great, good job, good one. All right, here's next. Table eight. The map holder and the presenter. Everybody say not it, not it. Table 10, you guys want to get on that.
Okay, so we have a few questions, and I think that we all one is which ADA eight because 86 rich for this family. Are all of these on septic? So we also got
that was area. Yes.
right. So this area does not meet our grade zone, but this is this top partially behind there. We're gonna have problems. And are we going to have a minute? Traffic issues at Farmville 86. Feeding that vehicle into Farmville, and then that intersection is on all areas. And the creek. So the creek is down here, no longer in this. So there's that creek. Like your um, your but this is the process.
All right, so we're just so you know, we're jotting down all those things too. Usually it's not some questions at this point, just we'll have an element of the answer. So we'll go through them hopefully tonight or throughout the process. Thank you guys. Here, table 7. No, this is the end of the group. Number 10, what about that? Well, the next word is we're both the people here, so
Hi. Indeed. We don't know. We spend a lot of time sharing our own books. And that are. And we are concerned about the work. Concerned about the but they should take someone who's part of the get the realtor who's interested in seeing where this is going. And someone who is an educator and would like to make gardens and school. I think you'd be curious about, I guess there's too many unknowns. You really start to need to questions. So excited and in trying to build constitution.
That's it. You basically all what we talked about. You said the diversity. Um, Johnson's main question about page 6, that there's management. It's about the form of direction on, talking about measuring the wetlands, seeing there. And then, that's it. Sure. Also, like a restaurant, what? Oh, yeah, also, one, red line we have is not, control, wild animal, dogs and stuff, and your ass. Yeah. So, what presentation It's not a good place for burden. So, it's a good help to consider. They should be here. You put the market and parts and everything well out of that. I would put it too far back. You love it on the side. So. Then, if you can get access to your company, and have access to that part of the solid. Really call that, what they call there. What we call it, more houses in Northwest.
So what community with
So we won't have anything for all interviews right now. We will. We'll have a lot but I'll do my best to answer whatever you got. Okay, now what do you need? Yeah, yeah, so typically what happens is you have to, when you do development, it's primarily on the inside, but then you have impacts, right, for the outside. So you do traffic studies, you do, impact analysis for utilities, for infrastructure, schools, all those things. And so once you do that, you get the information back, and then you have to make a series of improvements based on. And so here's why we don't talk about it now is advanced stage. So ultimately, though, what can happen is those impacts, when you do the impact analysis, can affect, what you can do, right? And so you may have a big idea, we come up with, like, here's what in blue sky world, what we can do, and we go like, oh, look at that, there's this perfect impact. Now we need to adjust, we need to do whatever. So typically it works only in a shrinking capacity, not a growing capacity. You don't normally find a impact analysis is, oh, you should really do more. But, you know, some of those things like, and again, if you're, you know, if you're here as concerned, things like, trails and those kind of things, you go, yeah, clear that up. And so the roads and things that are out there now would be preferable for you to go exercise on all that rather than the proper trail network and those kind of things. Okay. Yeah. But typically, you know, we have country roads like they have around here. There are those who are a bit more hardy in their exercise regimen. A lot of people don't go on this road. They're narrow, they don't have good shoulders. You know, you do have traffic bypass. And so what you see is when you create a network of streets and trails and things within the property, oftentimes you actually see, oh, now I'm going to change the route. Now, you know, obviously, you say, well, I don't feel comfortable utilizing these public trails. Then there's many cases where it's literally a empty park or whatever. And so, you know, I'm not comfortable with that, and that's your choice. It's fine. But the idea would be that this will be walkable, bikeable community. So, you know, when you look at, you have a plan, you'll see a trail network will show all that. And so you'll see actually there's a huge positive uptake in the amount of areas do those things, whether or not you choose to use them.
Specifically talking about the impacts on the surrounding area, community, as there are a lot of negative impacts, right? Traffic, watershed, so on. Are there any opportunities for positive impacts, such as a way to invite people into more of a community space and not make it feel like a private, members only?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you'll see through the process here, we don't do private meetings. That's what, I mean, like if somebody came to us and said, hey, we want you to do a gated community, and I got gates. Everything we do is intended to be accessible to the public, to feel like it's everyone's. Yeah, obviously, if you live there, like, oh, this is great, because I have super easy access to it. In the community, if you live near it, you're like, oh, this is great because I have easier access to other people. The big thing is when you make a place like this, how do we make it where it doesn't end up being so and they're so easily accessible that other people coming in, now you're because of the community, right? And so you do that by the parking you have, and it's more helpful with the neighborhood and that. But I mean, ultimately, it's you know, we can solve all the problems. People don't typically think about development solving any problems, right? And it's like, what's in it for us? When you go through a process like this, we your opinion about right now, I got probably floods all the time, flooding issues. You go, oh, okay, that's good to know. Where is that flooding happening? Because one of the things you're able to do, you're thinking holistically on a piece of property instead of doing pieces, just on what happens in the area. You're able to then start to think about regional systems. We can improve actually health things like impact we might have on the creek, the watershed, all those things, also the water and that. So we come else later. You mean the ones I referred to earlier? Oh, yeah. So we sat down initially, fact findings. So we go, stay, sit down in the city, planning department, engineering. We sort out all this, planning jurisdiction, if we're in the optimal boundary, if we're not in the optimal boundary, watershed. And so they basically kind of walk us through, here's what you are and aren't. It's basically been doing our homework to get ready to start doing this.
So, it happens, someone's really key to work. Then, you just said, you went and talked with them, but really didn't give them any kind of.
Right, they asked me like, how many units? I said, I don't know. So we're gonna do, I just do an agrihood, this agrihood means, all that stuff. So we basically talk through some of these ideas, but ultimately, they won't be able to respond to anything until we actually have a plan issue. Normally, developers do their plan and then they talk to the city. So, and then they do their plan and maybe they go talk to them. So we kind of, this is all.
I would invite you to do to make our specific.
Okay. I know how it wouldn't be good because there's no project and they don't know anything because we don't know anything. But I will watch it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
City and then we have really getting and then we just want to hear something that but again we're not getting it, so how can we tend to try to reinforce something when there's really nothing there. Yeah, what we see or what I see yeah, where initially you're asking for 60 units, 40 units. But if you extrapolate, there's over 1,000 new homes that may be built. You don't know, and I don't know. But with 800 acres, that is that play. And us folks here who are landowners, we didn't move out of this part of the country to be around over 1,000 acres. We just did.
No, as far as I know, we definitely can do 1,000. Not sure of the 40 and the 60 that you're talking about.
You're not sure, you're not really sure.
Well, we talked to them. It's just not super clear. That's what I was saying in the beginning. That's why I had a county meeting. They were trying to figure out who has sort of ultimate authority now. But you may fall into the category of people who want to wait until the presentation where we actually have something to show you, have a plan, that kind of stuff. Or you may want to wait until we actually go present the project to the city and we have something to show. Because at this, like I said, I'm not trying to say be for or against anything because there's nothing for or against. I'm just trying to get your ideas, know that you like the exercise and you like the roads as they are. And I go, well, I might like to show you some other way that you actually might like something about this. Those are the kind of things that I was listening for, I'm looking to hear.
But there's one big thing with me that is it's a small input. We have our power. But there's probably one of the years. Or two. What possibility that going to affect what really interesting. What are the one
They will be at the meeting tomorrow morning, I believe. That's the case. Yes, I'm getting thumbs up. They'll be there tomorrow. Alabama Power will be there tomorrow. Septic provider will be there as well. And so if that's something you're particularly interested in, you have time, please come to that, but we'll also report it. So if you miss it.
now you say you're going to be there because you had discussions with
That's the thing. So we can talk to them about what. And then this is. So for somebody to show up, consultant comes to town, and doesn't try to tell you all the answers. Those consultants don't like to say, I don't know something. But we don't, we're at the beginning of the process here, so we are learning each day as we go, and we'll know more by the end. And then even at the end, when the closing presentation happens, we still may not have all of the answers. But we will have to have them before we submit anything to any agency reporting. We'll have to have done any impact analysis required, all that stuff. So, but to your question about the water, that's a good example. We get this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let me say that and I'll come back. All right, so when it comes to water, or anything, any utility or whatever, the water comes up a lot, especially in rural areas. People are like, oh, my water pressure is bad already, and house is leaking. The water providers have standards that you've got to meet, and so we would have to. They basically say we have capacity for you or we don't. The idea of a utility being a limiting factor on how much further development can happen in the area is correct, but typically what happens is if they can't have capacity for new development, then provisions are made to take care of that. And so we'll learn more about that issue. I saw it in when I said water pressure. Water pressure, what you're talking about, or just quality? Okay. Is a group that is it's got anything in this area. Okay. Okay.
shame on you. Doing it twice, shame on me. And I worked with some folks in that board and with so the concern is that how is that, you know, everyone look at what you challenge all the actually delivered promises, expectations. You have any problem? You are saying expectations very, very high. What is going to be? And all of that. That also we have like one, two, one, two, doesn't it? I share working out with this. I digital copies. They are friendly. Just always think that so I mean, so so all of the things that we're talking about here show up in this in the city, county, in order for it to be. Otherwise, we can just, it's not bound to anything in the city. So what you want to do is look at the submittal that comes through the city to make sure that all of these wonderful things that we're talking about are in that. Some of them, we may find out that the city government or water situation isn't that. But probably city and county water. We're still trying to figure out even where's the in really my perspective. But I guess and the two they do is they actually bring in people from the next one over to vote on things because then they feel where it's only like what's best for everyone. But it's normal. Why are you so the to me and knowing that the number of
recreation, I mean, used to allow you to go on trails and all that stuff. So again, back to what I said at the beginning, you can find a favorite project, fight for that. Or, so, you know, having those things, show up in the city community, that's the big issue. This is the more a lot here, 5,000 there, just what people are used to having here. It's just a different system. Like they're all, I believe, it's one. And so, you know, what they treat that totally different. So there's protections in place, and those are the kind of things that you're policies here. Giving a good understanding of what your protections are. Hopefully, if you, I like a hard reading, but you know that. Start with it, but if you, yeah, hard reading, you want to, do that, rather than just make sure you understand what the protections are in place for you. Because like a lot of times we're like, I already feel it. So, yeah, I answered that. So, I think I can. Oh, yeah. Now, make a function, right? And 86. Very all the city. You express hope. We should do the thing happening. What we do. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, So somebody before, you know, I hear yes, no, I hear yes.
Okay. All they have to do is. Once. Then they're gonna. I have seen in the first year. They truly want to give it meetings. It never happens. And that in itself is a big step in the right direction for me. I want to see. And have a voice in what's going to happen. The answer's fine.
There's a lot of other planners. Get the hard questions. But, the community project like this, that's been complicated, would require, very, thoughtful, HOA, agricultural operation has to have association, all that stuff. And so ultimately, a lot of these things. Somebody, oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Couple questions. I'm not proposing, we're here to draw regular. Yeah.
But, I mean, that's what people know.
No, that's all right, basically subdivision regulations, no zoning in there. Subdivision regulations will allow one unit per acre.
Right. So that's where it come in. Well, down.
No, you could definitely still do the. Subdivision. Use that smaller lots, but here's the tricky. There, they have a lot width regulation. So means that unfortunately, small lot will be 50 feet long. Normally, 30 feet. You know, if they can,
Oh, oh,
if they theoretically, if once you take it that off, you do that 50-foot width. So that's part of what we're going to do here. We may come back and be like, oh yeah, even though we can further regulations do 300. Well, we get to the end. So, my neighborhood would have 5 miles worth of trail. That's, parks, playground, and all that. Nobody has parks. Theoretically. No, I'm saying.
okay, sure.
Oh, in mine, they can still, it's
So
not.
it's, you know,
The neighborhood it is, right? So when you do these small scale things, like a lot of times in a lot of agribusiness end up in sort of a rural location where it doesn't make sense to have commercial. So in the way that a regular subdivision, how they do it right here, but a lot of subdivisions would be like, oh, yeah. They see that as a tendency in an aggregate, you would see or how so maybe subsidized or whatever. So it's different. That's also why I say a little bit of commercial. Law for its purpose. So now it's like, oh wow, there's something really amazing that can come of this if they're developed. So yeah, like most developers would just go spend $25 a week. But then it's probably like does it develop under partner? And costs. I mean, again, I know it seems crazy. This is their concern. Well, as long as they have control their consultant, it doesn't matter. They have something in mind. Yeah, no, I got it. Yes, yeah, because from one that it was aggravated, like, also the owners. So we're also going to be when we carve it up in the regular way, that experience. You so, just that philosophy. Yeah, so we just trying to make walkable aggregate and make it rock, very lots. And I knew like a 300 based on the map that with the regulations, the municipality we could have done way more, but it just wasn't what the intent was of the project. Project was scales, feeding rules. So, maxing out, sometimes, out of the development perspective, it's great. Legal perspective is not. So, again, I know, I do not know how many lots, how much it's going to be. I do not maximize every project.
Maybe. I have a question. What are the projects?
Quite specific. But we've, you know, but I'm going to, but we've worked in places and done projects. Series of weird areas that have to be sorted out. And unless the jurisdiction is just a slip of the wheel, you have to solve where it's all.
But the weird peculiar is good. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you move your way,
Well, I'm talking the peculiarities are. And, yeah. Yeah. No, y'all have peculiar.
that's.
Oh, I'm so. Y'all will know by the end of the week that I would move.
Yeah. So.
Getting paid to do or to do this.
And so is your work, is your,
Rather than you guessing, I'm going to tell you. So what we do is get input from the community. We work on a plan. We incorporate the input with guidance. Then we will present it to you. Say at the end of the week, into the charrette. Then we'll do another Q&A. We'll get tell us all the things that you love about it and you don't like. And then take all of that, and then we'll create a submittal to the city and go through that process. And so we create that, but then we have engineers on the team. So some of the requirements from the city and the county will be engineering requirements. So all of the stuff with the utilities and the water, all those studies and all that stuff, we'll kind of quarterback that, assemble all that, and that will go to the city, and then I'll present it to the city in this process. And then it'll go. Because when we go through the official process, which is no longer project start, or do any of this.
so the governing body for the CE is.
You need to film? No, they, all these, the only thing that they can consider are submitted. Well, we submit to the city, and we left off here, that's what they have to, that's what they can consider, and they consider the public comment during the planning commission and city council hearings and all that stuff.
And from these events.
Not here, so no, I mean, I don't think they can. Yeah. I mean, I guess if they watched the video and took it into consideration. Yeah, they'll see all of those concerns if they watch the videos. Yeah, I need to work on my answers with you, because like, you keep hearing something different than the meeting. Yeah, so you have the official public process, with the city and the county and all that stuff, where y'all can stand up at a podium and say what you like, what you don't like. This is normally the only input that you would ever get for any development. How do you do? At this point, you're absolutely architecture.
So I really don't understand.
You may not. Definitely not. No, there's a whole different group. Yes, no, we're okay, well, then come on Wednesday. Then come next Wednesday. All will be revealed.
I would love to see people that are visual, that have the. Are the people.
Difficult. Yes. Go to Sarah. Yeah, Sarah is just south of Atlanta. Yeah, it's just very well. Well, hold on, I'll tell you what's different. So the multi-family parts of Serenity, more dense parts, the office, all that. If you go through the parts of Serenity that have the single-family houses, some of them are large estates, some of them are smaller cottages, all that stuff. Those parts of Serenity, will be, to answer your question, the closest thing you can see is something like this. So, but this will be a business. But this conceptually is very. Yes, sir.
Hey, my name is Joshua, we live on Road. So I appreciate the fact that you're getting all of our long-term needs and private areas. But what is the purpose behind this project? Not how it's going to be accomplished, not what we want to do. What is driving to motivate? Probably or something wrong.
Great question. No one's ever asked me that before, but they always just assume. So thank you for asking. So in this case, I think that, the spark, the genesis of this project was conceptual, philosophical. We had a deal of the agribusiness, needs of the land. There's lots of families that are around here that have been hearing about projects like this. We could have a place like that. I think that resonated with our. And then, in order to make it happen, it has to be profitable. So I think, like most projects, start profit first, and then hopefully it's not it's principle first. Probably that's the plan of that. Great question. So, Mike. Oh wait, sorry, Mike. Sir.
So,
Adam, property.
You pick shots. You have, you do it. What problem? That, what, you,
Well, we gotta find the answers. Part of our. Yeah. Ready for dinner. I studied and all that stuff, show the way. And a lot of stuff. Thank you for why. So, I think I can say that in this year. To be honest, units, your weekend, the dream and all of the questions here, communication is. What are the goals of the problem? And what do those goals yield? And so based on the conversation we were sitting on and on. That's what you could do. I think no, man, we do better. So, I would have to start weekend. I think that the things that you've done on our webpage, you see that would have to be. Sometimes it's depending on depends on how many people are. But yeah, well, people will be able to be like, okay, this is Wednesday should have a better idea. Hopefully. Or clarity. Okay, it's about. Between now and then, you are thinking of, you're gonna do are you also thinking of, Yes. So here, 50 spots. Here, you're gonna have 150. So like, I would guess probably like 5 acres. It's like so, yeah, so,